WWE believe they could sign AEW's Kenny Omega. There was a big return on AEW Rampage last night, and we have the reason why Bryan Danielson hasn't worked in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Stay tuned for the news. Well, this time last year, we all sat about and were like, of course, the Cody Rhodes is a free agent, but he's not. Is he with AEW? Yeah. Is he not? Could he go to WWE? No, he can't go to WWE.
Why would he go back to WWE? He went away to prove he was better than that.
He was with AEW, and AEW's been doing some fantastic things, but then he went to WWE. So
yeah,
it seems like it's not an impossibility that things like that can happen. Well, a report from Fightful Select has said there's plenty of chatter within WWE about Kenny Omega, and several within the company think they have a chance of signing the 39-year-old, which is something I did not expect.
No, the wording of that made me kind of chuckle because it's sort of like, I just imagine that there's a bit of a bet going on between 5 or 6 members of hiring staff.
Like, who can we get? Yeah,
you couldn't get him. I can get him.
I can get him. That'd be a really fun reality show. Who could they get signed?
You know, it's one of those things where it's wrestling. You never say never, but Kenny Omega, WWE never really seemed like it would be a good fit. He had a history with one of WWE's developmental territories. They didn't exactly treat him with any respect.
Yeah, he was in OVW for not a long time.
Was it was like he was in Deep South?
Deep South. I misspoke there, but yeah, Deep South. He was there for, I want to say, back in like 2006.
It was when he was kind of really honing.
Yeah, and I've seen footage of it, and he does not look like Kenny Omega. It's really strange to see him because it's not the character and the person we know who it is today. But it says that Omega has said to have had a positive relationship with WWE, especially with Triple H. And this stems from their talks in late 2018. Now, way back when, if we cast our mind back, before AEW was even a thing, there was talk that WWE, and specifically Triple H, had sat down with Triple H. Of course, Triple H was there. Yeah. He sat down with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks about joining WWE, and it was reported at the time that it was main roster money for an NXT deal. Which,
again, NXT for those 3 talents. I mean, NXT was popping off, but it was sort of on the downswing. It certainly would have brought a lot of eyes to the product.
Yep.
But
it would have felt
NXT.
Yeah, it would have felt very much like AEW just under the WWE bubble, I think.
Yeah.
Because it had the similar sort of look and the similar vibe. But yeah, so they seem to have a positive relationship with Triple H, which could kind of help WWE's favor,
I guess. Yeah.
So there's no official confirmation about when Omega's AEW deal expires, but the report from Fightful notes that Tony Khan has said that there is substantial injury time that could be added to his contract. Now, we've seen this in wrestling before. Numerous people.
Everybody's got a substantial minimal injury time.
Exactly. You had a sore finger one week. I'm going to add a week on. Well, Rey Mysterio had it, I believe, with his knees.
Yeah.
And you had numerous other talents have been out for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Contracts have been added on. AEW is believed does have this stipulation for majority of their contracts, including Kenny Omega. But it's not believed if the time has been added to his contract as of yet. A report back in September, though, of 2022 from Meltzer states that Omega's AEW deal expires February 2023. Guess what month it is, Sam?
It might just be February.
It's February 2023.
But, you got to look into the fact that if there is going to be injury time added, which I feel is just becoming more and more the norm in the industry these days, this is maybe going to push it back toward maybe late summer, toward the end of the year.
But the only thing I can see that can really counterpoint this is Kenny Omega is one of the higher ups in AEW.
Yeah.
He is also someone who works behind the scenes. It's going to be quite tough to add injury time as a performer if he's also actually been working during that injury.
It depends kind of how the contract really specifies the injury time works, whether that's in front of camera exclusively or whether it does take into account other roles.
What I will be amazed at is if AEW's Fight Forever video game releases and Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes are both in a different company.
Yeah.
Which would be wild, but but that's, it could happen.
Yeah.
But I talked about yesterday with Adam, a report from the Wrestling Observer, which noted that WWE was interested in calling up Carmelo Hayes to the main roster and putting him in with the Hurt Business, which is apparently, or according to Meltzer, could be reformed soon.
Okay.
However, Carmelo Hayes took to Twitter himself to sort of dismiss this report.
Sort of dismiss?
Yeah, did you see what he said, Sam?
Yes, he retweeted the Wrestling Observer's report and simply wrote, "I rate the accuracy of this report, ellipsis, one star."
Oh, I mean, that was a great comeback.
I mean,
Absolute great comeback.
It's another one of those things where you got to take it with a pinch of salt. But Carmelo Hayes is definitely somebody I can see making it to the main roster sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
It feels like it'd just be sort of a waste of time to not pull the trigger on him soon. Whether that is indeed going to be a call up to be part of a stable like the Hurt Business, or whether he's just going to get, your standardized call up.
I mean, me and Adam spoke about it quite a bit yesterday, so if you want some more analysis on it, go and watch the news from yesterday. But we did sort of say that he would fit perfectly in with the Hurt Business and sort of establish him really high up the card immediately if the Hurt Business got a serious push behind.
Yeah, it's like a big statement, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what happens here. Obviously, he's dismissing it, but at the same time, he's unlikely to come out and go...
Wrestlers dismiss everything.
Yeah, he's not going to come out and go, "Oh, that's spot on, Dave. Well done. 5 stars.
Thank you. You've ruined what was going to be a very good moment."
Absolute 1 star. But there was a big return that I would rate at least 4 stars last night on Dynamite on Rampage. During last night's AEW Rampage, we saw the return of Keith Lee. Oh, he's back. Yes. To the fire. Yeah, I love his music.
Any Keith Lee.
We didn't forget about you.
Anytime, all the time, Keith Lee.
Oh, we didn't forget him about it at all. But during the main event last night, we saw Swerve Strickland take on Dustin Rhodes, and the finish sort of came when Parker Boudreaux attacked Rhodes and caused the DQ. Mogul Affiliates, I know, Parker, naughty boy. Mogul Affiliates looked to beat down Rhodes after the match, but Keith Lee made the save, and he's sporting a somewhat new look. He's bald now, so it's kind of, he's got a different look. He's gone away. We last saw him December 21st Dynamite when he did it wasn't, admittedly, I didn't like the segment that much. Yeah. But to end it, it was a double foot stomp through a concrete slab
that was on his chest.
On his chest.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's pretty brutal. It's pretty gnarly. Yeah. It's a pretty solid way to get written off TV for a bit.
Yeah, nasty way to go. So he's been off TV since then. He's now back. It looks like he's set to reignite his feud with Swerve Strickland. Obviously, they're former AEW Tag Team Champions in Swerve in Our Glory. I think they can produce some pretty damn good matches.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that one. I'm sure they'll be on Dynamite next week. But speaking of what's could be happening in the future, that was a clunky segue, that one. Bray Wyatt was on SmackDown last night, and it's his first appearance since the Royal Rumble. Yeah. Wyatt and Uncle Howdy interrupted potentially the greatest segment in the history of SmackDown. What was it?
A painfully great segment. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
So Hit Row were out in the ring. They were kind of running down Montreal, I guess, in a way, with that kind of rap segment. But they interrupted. You had Howdy on one side of the apron, Bray on the other in the more wooden mask. Is that the Uncle Harper?
It was the Uncle Howdy mask. They're still calling them Uncle Howdy, despite it not being the sort of weird, as Ross says,
the law's getting too far away from me now.
It is a bit too much, but they sort of interrupted and they came and stood ringside, and then they tagged.
They jumped in, quick double Sister Abigail, or was it like mandible claw, Sister Abigail. Montreal went wild for this.
Yep, and they sort of went, "You're welcome, Montreal." Yeah. I'm sure it's nice to see a little bit of humour from Uncle Howdy. Well, it was Bray that said it, but Wyatt went on to state his intentions now that his family was back together. He then directed his attention to Elimination Chamber, which is tonight. Stay tuned for all that, and put Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar on notice by telling them that whoever won the match, they should be prepared to run. Bobby Lashley responded to this on Twitter by saying, "Once I put Brock to bed tomorrow, you get your wish, creep."
Just like my physical fitness is off the charts, Bray. I run 11 miles a day. Bobby just answers really dryly.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley, my
Brock
God.
just retweets with,
you're gonna lose, with his high-pitched voice. I think this could be an interesting match at WrestleMania, him versus Bobby Lashley or versus Brock Lesnar. It just has come out a little bit left field. I don't know where this has come from.
I just want some stuff to start happening soon. It feels very much like we're not so much treading water. It just feels like we're really letting this atmospheric world building go. But at the same time, it's sort of like, what are we building to?
Like it feels, it is a shame because we sat here when he immediately returned. I think we covered the news the night after he came back, and it was like, oh my God, this was incredible. Bray Wyatt is back. He's got some really cool, interesting ideas. All the find the little Easter egg details.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got away from it, and it's not quite what we were expecting. Why we were following a rabbit and all that sort of stuff.
And it's just kind of fallen back into, in certain places, the Alexa Bliss stuff. And it's just kind of like, I thought we were going to come back and have a bit more of a step away from that.
And this next feud that he's going into, it could be a really big decider on how the fan react to Bray going forward. Him versus Lashley or Lesnar could respond. They could respond well to it, but it just feels like this came out of nowhere. But we will keep an eye on that one. I'm sure we will get more progression tonight in Elimination Chamber. But we're going to round things off just now. So Bryan Danielson was formerly feuded with Bray Wyatt, actually, so there's a little, he disappeared from WWE in just April 2021.
Yeah, it's a lot sooner than it feels, right?
Yeah, right. Well, according to the Wrestling Observer, Bryan Danielson has not wrestled in Japan because AEW is booking the style of matches he wants to have. Of course, this was a big talking point about Bryan Danielson when he was Daniel Bryan. He was wanting to wrestle in Japan. He wanted to go and do stuff non-WWE.
There's maybe another reason as well.
Yeah, possibly. But alongside this, he's wanted to go to Japan. He hasn't wanted to go to Japan until the crowds were allowed to cheer and boo. Which
for anybody who's been watching Japanese wrestling over the pandemic onwards, it's been quite tough going at times. You know, the occasional allowance for clapping, but it's, you know, the lack of cheering and booing has sucked.
Yeah, it's weird. I was looking on the New Japan website at tickets for stuff, and Battle in the Valley is tonight. There's a big match on that one, and it's weird. It's got like Battle in the Valley brackets cheering event, and it's very weird in the fact that obviously they've had a very different time with the pandemic and how things have gone, and they've already been very strict with the wrestling. WWE and AEW came back in full force, and it was just cool. We've got crowds cheer.
Yeah.
New Japan didn't do that. So I can understand Bryan Danielson wanting to be very reserved and wait until that was back to go out there. But following on from that, the Wrestling Observer also reports that before leaving WWE, Bryan Danielson caused WWE and Nick Khan to open up communication with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Despite people denying it, Tony Khan found out about this and discovered that the pitch was for WWE to be the exclusive American talent source for New Japan, which would end relations with AEW and Impact. Danielson wanted to find out which company got the deal with New Japan, and when it was clear AEW had it, he left WWE to join Tony Khan's company.
Which is interesting, because I'd like to kind of sit and assess how that could have gone down. You know, WWE being New Japan's exclusive talent partner, but then when I think you look at AEW's roster, you look at people like Kenny, the Bucks, it just feels more like a natural, you know, hand-in-glove fit.
It does feel more natural with AEW.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've seen WWE so closed off for 20 years.
Yeah, that's sort of wrestling's hermit kingdom, right?
Yeah, so it would have been really interesting to see how that would have happened, what that would look like. Obviously, we saw Carl Anderson at Wrestle Kingdom, so
it's sort of the give and take as well. That's the thing I'm most interested with in any potential New Japan WWE deal, is kind of like, how would it work on the wins and losses front? How would it work on talent exchange? Like, what are you going to do?
Like WWE, if you had Roman Reigns versus Okada, both are fighting for
every show, every match ends in a draw.
Yeah, you can't. Both company would fight for who they want winning, but it's obviously it didn't go that way, and that's why Bryan Danielson has gone AEW and he's not appeared in Japan. I think we will see him in Japan at some point.
Yeah, I reckon sooner rather than later. Now that Sheeran's back,
I would say the G1, but that takes him off AEW television for far too long. Now we've got a lot of stuff coming up tonight. We've got a lot of content going out on the channel. So reactions.
It's PLE or pay-per-view night.
Oh yeah, PLE. We never actually mentioned that. PLE entirety in the one video. I'm surprised. But we've got Elimination Chamber tonight. It's myself and Tom on reactions. Unfortunately, Andrew's a little bit poorly, so you've got me instead. I'm sure it'll be a fun time. We've got What Happened At and WTF on the channel over the weekend. And we will have graded on the channel shortly for SmackDown from last night. So stay tuned for all that content. We're off to get a coffee because I'm tired.
Catch you in a bit.